Cult of the Lamb, a roguelike literally about creating and growing your cult followers, was one of 2022's most celebrated games. But in real life, an actual cult was also growing, and it's thanks to this guy. Meet Jared J. Tan, a community strategist at Devolver Digital. Alongside an incredible team, Jared spearheaded Cult of the Lamb's social media growth, growing 13,000 followers to 180,000 followers on Twitter in just 3 months. We sit down with Jared to understand the science of community management, how he went from Big Four accountant to cult leader, and some awesome tips about how you too can grow your social following. This is the 20M Podcast. Welcome to the 20M Podcast, your deep dive into games and the people behind them. I'm your host for today, Rino. This is Arief. Say hello, Arief.
Hello everybody.
And today we have a really special guest with us. It's Jared.
Hello.
How you doing, man? How you feeling today?
Recovering. I was kind of sick the past week and a bit. Still not fully better, but good enough to say hello today. So that was it. That was my hello. That's the whole episode.
The good enough is like such a mood, you know? It's like, yeah, I'm kind of sick. I'm really tired. I'm overworked. And I'm like, I kind of just want to play video games. I'm good enough to do this, you know? Like, fine. I feel like I need to use that as a response to
I was going to say, I think you really felt that, Arief, the good enough.
Oh, absolutely. Do you know how much content we've been churning out this summer season? It's insane.
Yeah. I see how much content is there. It's that you've been putting out. Like, as someone who has been on the content grind, I cannot do it for very long. And anytime that I do it, it's like, okay, maybe a few weeks at tops, and it's like, okay, I'm done.
I think that the 3 a.m. live streams that really spoke to me in a what am I doing with my life moment. Like getting my makeup on at 3 a.m., turning on my computer, camera, lights on. I'm like, hello.
You know, that's like literally like cloud makeup. You're just like putting, it's like you look like a cloud. Like, I can't believe I'm reacting to the Devolver Direct at 3 a.m.
It's like insane. I don't know. Like just living in this part of the world is just always at a disadvantage. When will we get like a proper like nice 11 a.m. stream in Malaysia? Where's the Malaysia?
Is that what we're asking, Jared? Like, can you please lobby for the PlayStation State of Play
exactly
to be?
We got you on the show.
I think there are some smaller streams from Japanese companies that happen at night. So, yeah.
I mean,
sometimes you need to only watch those ones live, and the rest of them, you're out of luck.
Yeah, I mean, Capcom had theirs at a respectable 7 a.m. I think for me, I was like, this is fine. I can do
it's
it.
Not just 7 a.m. It's a respectable 7 a.m.
All right, before we get too deep into things, Jared. So obviously, myself and Arief are big fans of your work and of the games you've been working on. But for any of our listeners who might not know who you are, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay. I did not prepare to introduce myself, but hello, I'm Jared J. Tan. I'm the community strategist at Devolver Digital. Devolver is a publisher of a lot of very unique games. The ones that I've worked on, and the most well-known one is Cult of the Lamb. Wearing my cult leader shirt. And where is it? I have one. Oh, here it is. Got a plush here.
Oh, of course.
Oh my god, the traveling
It's like having
plushie.
A celebrity on the
Oh,
podcast. Not that you aren't a celebrity, Jared. My apologies, but like the plushie. Wow.
It's literally the traveling lamb, right? The one that's been following you in all your travels.
No, it's not. It's not always the same one.
Oh, it's not the same one.
What?
No,
That's like
yeah,
breaks the immersion. You know.
Oh, do people think that it was only one? There's a lot of these in the world. But yeah,
you bring like 20. You bring like 20 in your suitcase and pass them out, like disseminate them in each country that you go to.
Oh man, I wish I had that many. I'd be rich. These go for like a fair bit on eBay. So yeah.
Wow.
There's not that many of them in the wild.
And the working bell as well. I can see when you hold it, like.
Oh yeah.
Jeez.
But sorry. I realized that when I closed this cupboard here, it probably like shook everything and made a big sound.
No.
It was just announcing the presence of the lamb. That was all.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
It's wonderful to have you here, Jared. It's just so cool to me because I think like Devolver is such a, I don't even know how to describe the company. You know, as such a fan of a lot of the games that y'all publish, it's like it's one of those things where it's like you just have to say the name and people kind of associate it to certain feelings or certain types of games or a certain type of energy. But then on top of that, Cult of the Lamb is just like taking the world by storm, right? And to be one of the people kind of like responsible for part of that growth trajectory, I just think is like a little bit insane. I mean, like, how just general did you anticipate working on a game about like coming into the games industry? Did you anticipate working on a game about building a cult and it's all cute furry animals?
No, I did not anticipate that.
It'd be really funny. It's like, yeah, no, that's exactly what I wanted
that was
to do.
The goal.
Yeah, that was always the intention. Years ago, I heard a voice, a higher calling, and that's where I ended up. Now, to be honest, even Cult of the Lamb isn't exactly my kind of gameplay wise, and because of that, before I started working on it, I was a little reluctant, but kind of realized that this could be really big, and like the team's looking for a bit of extra help, so I stepped in and helped. With a little bit, a very small piece of the big pie of why the game did very well. And a lot of people know what it is now.
Yeah, and I think it's like, well, I know we want to get to Cult of the Lamb like as a whole kind of topic, and we want to dive deep into some of the content that you've made and all that kind of stuff in a bit. But I think you downplay a lot of it. I feel like even though I know it is a small part and there's a lot of working functions of the success of that game, like when I talk to people about Cult of the Lamb, at least casually, even non people that cover the games industry, they always talk about the stuff they see on social. So I know there is a lot of functions of a lot of people that worked on the game, obviously, and also on the marketing side of the games. But man, like don't downplay the stuff that you've done there, because that's all people are talking about, you know?
Yeah, well, a lot of it is also like at the beginning of this year, I am like no longer like the social media person on on the Cult of the Lamb Twitter or TikTok. Shout outs to Josie Fletcher. She's like the social media master. She's much funnier, better at making content, better at memes than I am. So it's like taken off like to a whole other level with her at the helm.
Well, I think it was just like master passing on the baton to another master, because it has consistently stayed funny. But I think like just quickly before we get too deep into the cult, let's talk a bit about like how you ended up as a community manager, because from what I've seen, maybe stalked on LinkedIn, you have an accounting background, which is super unique. Like that's what you studied at the beginning?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, let's see how fast I can get through this. But so back in like grade school, in Canada,
we're going far back. That's awesome. That's awesome.
The full story of how it ended up there. So in grade school in Canada, you often have to like pick a pretty specific kind of undergrad program when you're going to like university or post-secondary education. It's not like in the US where a lot of people do maybe like more general degrees. Like I have friends who even they were choosing like not even just engineering, but the kind of engineering, like are they going to electrical or mechanical or chemical? And they're picking that like coming out of grade school. I ended up picking accounting because the only thing that I felt really passionate about was music, and music is like just too volatile of a career path to attempt. Coming from immigrant Asian parents, that's something that I learned a lot about, like trying to at least have some form of security. So accounting was something that I didn't mind, and the main goal was it would be something that it would give me enough money and time on the side that I could do music on the side. Accounting was able to do that. But then I also moved to a new city, moved from where I grew up in the Toronto area to Vancouver. People who aren't familiar with Canada, that's like a 5-hour flight. So no way to go home and get any like onion chicken or like satay pork or roti canai from home. Yeah, so that was a big move for me, moving away. Didn't know very many people on the other in the new place I was living, and like starting my career in accounting. I worked at one of the big four international firms, KPMG, and yeah, I didn't mind it too much. Like I even now I say I don't hate accounting, but kind of over time, I wanted to not just do a career that would give me time on the side to do something I enjoy, but I think I became more ambitious and wanted to have a career that aligned so that I could be like really good at my career, that like I would be able to like work really hard and do a good job and want to do that, so that other people would like be able to see and respect me as someone who is good in my field. Yeah. And okay, that's like half. So that's the first
Oh
time.
my god, that's awesome.
Wait, just quickly, grade school in Canada, what age is that?
Until around like 18.
Okay, because when I had grade school, I think in Malaysia or in Australia, grade school is like primary school. So when you were saying like, oh, like in grade school, like I had to decide on my career path, I was like, oh my god, like I would not have been able to do that at like 8 years old.
Don't we do something similar here as well with like the art stream or the science stream or whatever?
Yeah, we do art and science stream from like age of 16, I think. Yeah. And where they like categorize you, it's like either you're a science kid or an arts kid. And then there's this whole prestige about being a science kid. But then all the science kids end up studying accounting later on, which they could have just done if they went to the art stream. It's a message. It's all about prestige, all about what makes the Asian parents happy.
Yeah.
So
that one was super funny. Like when you said music, I had a very similar like experience where I was like, I love music and I wanted to study music. And super early on, that was like, nope, that's not gonna happen for you. It's like, oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Which is why like
sorry.
I was gonna say, it was like, this is why I have the guitars here in the background. You know what I mean?
There's some like Paramore covers, like Arief's Paramore covers are still floating
don't
on
look
the
up my
internet
name
somewhere.
on YouTube. That's not the 20M podcast. Like embarrassing 13-year-old me. It's like, I want to pursue my music career. Yeah, what were you saying, Jared?
Oh, I can't see the guitars. It's too dark and a little too small on my
They're
screen.
also dusty. So full disclosure, I barely play music anymore. It's just for show, you know. So maybe I don't want to highlight.
Just so people know he's an artist. He's an artist.
It's very similar stuff for me. I was gonna say, to be fair, like nowadays I like listen to different artists. Like just now I was listening to Laufey or like, so many artists. I go to their profiles and like they're young, and then it's like, oh, they went to UC Berkeley Music, or they went to like all these like top music schools, and like that's not how, like obviously they have a lot of talent and they've worked super hard to even get to that point, but then like they're just so good, and there's so many amazing musicians. I'm like, I'm not even close to this. Nowhere close to that level. So
I was just telling a friend yesterday. It's super funny you say that, like, because I went to school in Boston, and my university was right next to Berkeley as well. And so like when we would be at parties, you know, a lot of the colleges would mix or whatever, and you would always have somebody who pulls out a guitar or like there's a piano at the house, and I'd be like, oh, I play music, and it's like you're trying to jam, and then you have somebody who goes to Berkeley just go by, and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't go to music school. I don't know why I'm volunteering to play guitar at this party here. You know what I mean? But we can move on. This is such a derailed like music passion.
Collective. Yeah. Okay, so Big Four, you didn't mind it, but you wanted to kind of go more full time with something you were actually passionate about. How did that lead to like getting into games? Yeah.
So I guess I wasn't entirely sure what other careers that I should try to pursue that I felt that I could be passionate about. And I kind of did some introspection, some like personal self-reflection to find out what kind of values motivated me the most when it comes to work. And I thought of the things that I enjoy the most are, one, it's being creative and like making my own stuff, and two, sharing that with as many people as possible. Those are two things that you just kind of don't really get in accounting. Like accounting in general is like you're trying to fit things to rules, and then no one ever looks at the stuff that like the work that the accountants do. But that's where it didn't like really align very well. And then those two values that led me to like marketing, kind of like trying to get things seen by a lot of people. And then games specifically, because I wanted to also do those things for products or for an area that I actually cared about. So whether that was like music or other kinds of arts or video games. And at some point I kind of realized that, wait a minute, like people just have careers in marketing. Like that's like a thing you can do. Like you don't have to have a license to do that. So maybe I could do that. And then like there are lots of people who work for these huge companies. Like Nintendo has an office here in Vancouver. Like EA has like their huge FIFA campus, a FIFA and other games campus here in Vancouver. So like why couldn't I go try to work at those places? Yeah, and then eventually ended up applying and eventually getting like having a small studio take a chance on me at Brace Yourself Games, which is a indie studio here in Vancouver, and that's eventually led to working for Devolver Studios and then Cult of the Lamb.
Are you a big gamer? Like growing up as a kid, were you always playing video games?
Well, I was put in like lots of extracurriculars. So like one day it was piano, one day is violin, one day is like kung fu, another day is kung fu, another day is like baseball. So in between that, I did like playing video games, but I think I became more of a gamer as I got older.
Yeah, as you moved out of home, away from the Asian parents, perhaps.
Yeah.
Just to talk about like maybe on the community and the social stuff, I know a lot of people kind of think on the surface level, it's like, oh, it's like the creative side of things, which is like drafting tweets or content or general social pieces. But I feel like, yeah, a lot of where I get incredibly impressed is when people show the data of how they forecast what will hit on certain platforms, or how do you do engagement metrics. I think there's been a lot of GDC talks as well about like how do you value like the community, and how does community respond to certain things, and what is the data that goes behind it? So I just want to like say, I think there was that one graph that you guys put out, right, which was the Twitter followers to revenue for Cult of the Lamb, and it was such a simple visual, which is like you could see the positive correlation between the two. But I was like, oh my god, like that is such like I've been using that example to so many folks in Southeast Asia, which is like, hey, if you're hesitant thinking about getting somebody to help do social, or you don't have a Twitter page or whatever for your indie game, it's like, just look at this, man. Like there is awesome data behind this. So I just find that an interesting component. I know it's not like a 1-for-1, right, for a lot of games, but that data component I think is like undervalued in my opinion. People trying to sift through that data.
I think it's the other way around. Like it's like the game does well, and then
you search for the data to back it up, kind of a scenario.
Yeah, it's yeah. Like if you've seen my GDC talk, then you'll know like I believe that games do well because like the game is good, and it's like not because social media is good that a game can do well. Sometimes that is the case, but it's like there's other instances of games that even have had many like all the metrics, things like they even could have really big streamers play it. They have like lots and lots of views on TikTok, like millions of views on TikTok. They could have even the metrics that game developers think of, like wish lists. They could have lots of wish lists or demo downloads and all these things, and then like just not sell anywhere near that number of when the game actually comes out. Versus other games like I always give this example of Vampire Survivors, which is just like a game that people want to play, and like the number of players is way greater than their Twitter followers. It's like way greater, or like any of their social media stuff. It's the other way around, where like there's like the game itself sells itself, and it's not any of these other things that are selling it as much.
Whilst we're talking about your experience with social, and I think like stepping into this kind of role, I mean, is there anything that like people typically don't disclose about managing a community? Because I think we see a lot of the positive stuff, which is making the content, helping games, helping elevate the social presence of games or things like that. But are there any like things that people don't talk about? It's like, hey, this is like really challenging bits of the job when you're managing a social community for an indie game.
So okay, I always do the big ideas. This is kind of what I think of community management as a whole. Is like a community manager is the connection point between a brand and its audience, and then for games, so that's like the game and its players. So I divide kind of the things that people can do in that role as outgoing communication, so from the brand to the audience, or incoming communication from the audience to the brand. And outgoing is the stuff that you've probably like more people think of. So posting stuff on social media, but also writing like announcements and patch notes that go onto Steam, or like doing developer live streams, or all these things that are outgoing. So how is the brand or the game going to represent themselves to the players? And then the other side is listening and or engaging, where then you're taking the player feedback and then turning that into useful information for the dev team to potentially work on if that's something that they want to do. Or actually that's like talking to players, listening to their complaints, or like all these things like could be from like player support or customer support to QA, like bug reports, many possible different things. And at really big companies, like each of these things is its own job. Or you could even have a team of people like customer support, or like teams of people doing each of these things. But at small teams, small studios, and probably you're doing as many of those things as you can. And personally, I think the listening side can be really, really, really tough. I know, like, I guess people know, I think everyone has an idea of what the internet can be like. And then if you are like representing something that the players have like attached their identity to as like, oh, like a part of my identity is that I'm a player of this game, then yeah, things get really personal. For some reason, like through the anonymity of online, then people get like really mean as well. Yeah, like I definitely have friends who have received like really dangerous messages and things that no one should have to deal with. And that's kind of why community managers often don't last super long in that kind of role, because like things can get really bad.
I think Victoria Tran posted, like, it was kind of like a meme, but also like a serious note where she just said, like, developers don't look at reviews, don't look at comments, like that's my job. And it was like the meme of like the soldier like protecting like the person who's sleeping, like community managers and then like devs behind there. And just like because yeah, some of the things people say on the internet are just like awful. And then again, like you were saying, like with anonymity and with how like passionate to a fault they are about their games, like it can just get really out of hand. And feels like, for better or worse, like a community manager is sort of like that line of defense between like the people inside the company and the people who play the game.
Yeah, but I like really like no one should have to do that, because firstly, no one should be like that, like say those bad things in the first place. Yeah. And I think it's just not nice that, and like, it's not cool that like that's a job for people to have to sift through that. So yeah, that's definitely the bad part.
Yeah.
I guess like specifically with Call of the Lamb now, since like now that we can focus on that part of the game, like how did the whole like the voice of the lamb come about? Was it sort of like in your like the I guess like Twitter and Instagram, like it has a very specific sort of like tone of voice, and the lamb is very cute. It looks so cute, but then the tweets are like mega unhinged. Is it something that you woke up one day and you're like, this is the lamb, this is what he's going to be? Or is it something that sort of collectively yourself and members of the team sort of came together, like we're going to make the lamb like this kind of person, like there's like a real personality to him?
Yeah, there's a few things there. I don't think the social media is like the voice of the lamb exactly. It's like the voice of the account or the brand. The lamb doesn't say things usually, although some people make like the comics that people make, or like in the animation, like the fan animations and all of those things. Like those are so good, and like those kind of give the lamb a voice. But really, all of that stems from the game, where the developers, Massive Monster, they were really trying to have a huge contrast where you have this like super cute character that fit their art style compared to their previous games. The Adventure Pals, that's what I was thinking of the name of their previous game that looks similar. So yeah, super cute art style. The lamb is super cute, like you said, but then it does like very horrible things, right? Like, yeah, like sacrifices and killing things and feeding the followers poop.
Yeah.
What were some of the more memorable posts that you guys and the team came up with? Because I'm curious, like how you even pitch some of these ideas. Like, yeah, I'm going to make a TikTok about like it's a game mechanic. Like we might as well talk about followers eating poop. You know what I mean? Or like shoveling up, all that kind of stuff. What are some memorable posts that you guys came up with and put out there to the world?
Okay. There's a lot. I think the most unhinged one. It was not my thing, and it was like fan art. Really, it was the lamb kissing the Angry Birds.
Oh my god, yeah, I know that. It's like the Mario and Sonic meme, but it's like the lamb and the Angry
Yeah,
Bird.
yeah. That one was like the most unhinged one. Yeah, that was. It started as Josie. There was the creator clash happening,
Yeah,
and they were like
the feud
announcing
between with Duo.
Yeah. So then Josie made the thing of like the lamb mascot versus Duo from Duolingo, and then like that started going pretty viral on Twitter, and then the Angry Birds like joined in the comments, and then there started being beef against Angry Birds. But then some fan on the Twitter comments where it was like you should kiss and make up, and then like that became a thing, and then people drew. Someone drew it, and then like the official account posted it, and that went like extra viral.
I think it's still on the banner right now because it's like Pride Month.
Oh yeah. Josie's very good. So all of those stuff from 2023, the most unhinged things are all Josie's work. I think my best one would have been like with connected to the Mario movie. When the Mario movie was launched its first trailer with Chris Pratt as Mario. I took like audio of Chris Pratt from the trailer and like put it on the Cult of the Lamb animated trailer, which people really liked that.
Can we talk about the polka rap?
What's in the new update for Cult of the Lamb? Shimura, Kitchen, Photo Mode Gallery, Relic Good Achievements, Eye of Leshy, Permadeath, Midas, Purgatory, Tarot Cards, Boss Rush, Post Game Story. Update them all. Free content!
Yeah, that one, that was a team effort. So that one was when the really, really big Cult of the Lamb update came out a few months ago. I was like, at first it was like, Josie suggested I'm going to make a TikTok of can I list all of the things or as many things in the update in like 30 seconds. And then like we were just like making this big list, and and I don't remember who said like, oh, it's like a rap. And then I feel like Josie might have said it's like a rap, and I'm like, yo, I'll rap this. I will do it
in the style of Pokemon.
Yeah, and then it was like, oh, okay, the Poke Rap would be like so perfect because like it's a rap that everyone recognizes. It's just a list of lots of things, and the idea was to like make it seem like there were a lot of things because that update really does have a heck of a lot of things. So then I was like, okay, I want to do this. I asked some other people if they could help. At Devolver, we have JM, who is the other person. He was the singer. He just does like a bunch of different things. He on the side, he acts in like opera, like community opera. So he's a really good singer.
Oh, that's awesome.
He also acts. And because he's like the performer at Devolver, so we get him to do all sorts of things. Like he does voiceover for trailers. He does like dev live streams on behalf of Devolver. He for Broforce back in the day, he like sang like an American patriotic song. Yeah, so all sorts of things. Like you just look through. If you look through all of the Devolver content, you'll see JM like a bunch of times. But yeah, so JM helped with the singing because he's a very good singer. And then I asked Riverboy, Narayan, the composer of Cult of the Lamb, to just like help me edit the audio and like splice it all together. So that's why it sounds like a lot more professional. And then for the video, we have a few video editors, but one of them who I love working with, he like focuses on social media content. His name's Zach Galing, and I asked him if he could help make the video. I like found all the clips for him and like timed all the things and like got all the footage, compiled it all into a spreadsheet. So trying to make the job easier for him. And then he put it all together and like with the font to make it look like the Poke Rap and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like he's so good at like those little touches to make things look like just the way that we're trying to parody.
That's amazing. Like just a dedication to the bit, like everyone just coming together to create the Cult of the Lamb rap.
Yeah.
To me, it's like a reminder of like how many people are working on obviously want to contribute to the success of the game, but it also seems like you guys are having fun in tandem with it, right? It's like, this is such a crazy idea, but we're all excited by it, and there seems to be an energy around it, and you can kind of feel that texture when you guys put out those social content, right? So even though it might be just one or two people like on the video itself, or it is like a minute type of content that you guys are putting out, I just love that everybody's kind of like aligned that way and excited and energized by that. It's just hilarious to me.
Yeah, I think like it's really nice because we have a lot of freedom. Like other big studios, if you're representing big brands, or especially if you're like working on an IP like owned by Disney or Nintendo or something, like then you got to go through so many layers of approval just to get something done. But yeah, for us, it's kind of whatever the devs think is okay is cool, and like obviously with Cult of the Lamb, like the devs are happy to go like very unhinged because like that's exactly how they made their game.
Yeah, I think the fan response has also been so incredible as well. Like the fact that you guys put in like 100% and they're doing the same. Like I've seen the fan art isn't just like digital art; it's like leather jackets, it's like tattoos, it's like really intricate cosplay. Like just going through like the Cult of the Lamb retweets, I'm like, wow, like people really, really like this game.
Yeah. Some of our like most successful like social media stuff in general was from people who just love the game, and then like influencers as well, like streaming the game. Like I think it got to like 6th on Twitch when the game launched, like ahead of League of Legends for like a day. And then like the fans who are just like making stuff because they love the game. Like there's so many good things, and even the ones who like aren't really like trying to post on social media. I saw on Reddit the other day there was a person who without mods, I think, because they're playing on PS5. They have like 300 or 400 followers in their cult. Like the dedication to be able to do it. Like, yeah,
that is insane. When I was struggling with just like 10, like everyone was just hungry and tired and all the time. Like what? I didn't even know you could get to 300.
We didn't know either. That was not how it was intended, but yeah, it was like that Reddit post is it's one of my favorites.
Awesome. Yeah,
that's golden. As we talk about it now as like this huge success, and obviously it is like it seems like commercially it went really well, but also socially it's kind of taken the world by storm. I think you came on, if I'm understanding correctly, you came on before the game officially launched, right? Was it recently before the game launched?
Yeah, so I joined about a month to 5 weeks before the game launched.
And was it there's the same energy then? Because like for me, it's like it's really been the growth trajectory has been insane again, just on the sentiment side of things, right? But when did you guys know that this was definitely going to be a monster of a hit, pun intended there, I guess?
Well, I think you never really know. Like you can have your metrics like Steam wish list or like social media following, but like none of those guarantee anything. And I guess like we really knew that it was like really, really taking off when like just before launch. That would have been in the few weeks when certain streamers got a chance to play the game early. And like it was big on Twitch, it was big on social media, and like big streamers were even, some of them were coming to us and asking like, hey, like how do I get access to do this early? Like I saw these other people are like have it and they love playing it and it looks awesome and I want to play it. So I think like around that time it's like, okay, wow, this is like looks like it's gonna really, really take off.
Sorry, Pokemon. Sorry, XQC. You guys are on the wait list. All right, like we've got we got to roll out a bunch of stuff.
I think the Twitch integration is what made it so big on Twitch as well. Like the fact that your viewers could become followers and then they could kind of contribute to the totem. Like that all just made it really, really fun. I super enjoyed streaming it. We're going to overlay this whole conversation with the photo of me streaming and Arief's character being sacrificed. That's the whole intention of this conversation.
Yeah, which was really unnecessary. I mean, like, I'm happy to be part of a cult, but I didn't think I'd be jailed so easily. And again, like, that was a hilarious moment between Rino and I, but I've seen so much of that replicated throughout the internet as well. So it's almost as like user-generated content at that point. It's like they're able to use social to kind of highlight these moments in the game. So I just think it was such a good 1-2 punch where you guys are like cultivating the community, but also they can post their own stuff and make it be such a meme as well. It's just such a time. I don't know. Just the confluence of all those things just seemed almost perfect.
Yeah. And I think that's what it is. It's all of the possible things hitting as like well as they possibly can. And like that's how it ends up as such a big thing. Yeah. So I think like my corner of like being social and community at that time was a very small part of that. But it's like one of the things hitting, and then everything else also hitting, and then they elevate each other.
Besides Cult of the Lamb, though, you've worked on a couple of other games with Devolver, and I know you're excited to talk about. I guess we can start with maybe Terra Nil. So I'm not super familiar with this one, but I know Arief has played a demo in the past, and this is the one that's sort of like, I think when I saw the video, I was like, oh, this is like SimCity, but in reverse. It's like the going back to nature sort of thing, right? It's like recultivating the land.
It's a game in like a post-apocalyptic world. Which is many games, but in this one, it's like set up like to look like a city builder, but instead of building a city, you're allowing the environment to regrow, and you do this in like a tiled way on an isometric view. I think it's a very like relaxing game. It's a very I enjoy playing it. It's one of the games that when we need to like capture footage for, I'm like, oh yeah, like, I'm down to capture footage. Like I have fun playing it. So it makes it easy to capture footage. And I think it was really good to work on because it's so different. And obviously, like Cult of the Lamb is trying to be like shock value and funny and all these things, but then like Terra Nil, it's like completely in the other direction where it's like super. The game itself isn't that serious, and even like the technology that you use in the game to bring back the environment, to attract animals to come back, all of that stuff is like science fiction more than actual science, but it is rooted in things from actual like what the natural world is actually like. The devs, they're in South Africa, a small team under the Free Live studio, and they take a lot of inspiration from the local environment around them. Like there's the Fine Boss, like vegetation area, and in South Africa, they need to use forest fires to replenish the land where the forest fires then allow the nutrients to go back into the soil and then regrow with new vegetation, and that's like one of the key features of Terra Nil, where like if you think of environmental conservation, you might think, oh, like burning everything down, like that's probably not a good idea. And it's fun to see people's reactions to when they play the game and they see like the fire, they start the fire and then it just like spreads and spreads and spreads and it burns down everything. But that also teaches you that even when you're doing that, you can have like, you can do controlled fires by setting up barriers through like water ditches or rivers. But even if you do allow your whole thing to burn, then you can use the arboretum to regrow new forests from the nutrients that have come from the burned vegetation. So yeah, it's completely different. And and the best part is that the devs, they committed a portion of their profits from sales on Steam to donate to a real conservation organization in South Africa, the Endangered Wildlife Trust. And they got to go see firsthand the work they do to protect animals and environments in South Africa. And it's so cool. And they are like donated a lot of money to the organization through the sales of Terra Nil.
It's so amazing because, on a larger note as well, Rino and I covered the Wholesome Direct. And whilst we were kind of talking a lot about the games that come out of there, it's so funny to see, I guess, an explosion of wholesome games where you really want to, it's not about the AAA shooters, big explosions, like hyper capitalism kind of, type of undertones in a lot of indie games that you see now. It's almost like there's a resurgence of these games that are, going back to grassroots, right? And, have a completely different vibe. But it's so interesting to see that like a game like Terra Nil does actually have real world impact as well. So they're using the game to kind of further social goals in that way, which was like a beautiful thing. But I guess as it relates to the community management, content, social strategy side, like you said, Cult of the Lamb and Terra Nil are very, very different games, but they're all housed under the Devolver family, right? And knowing the work that you guys did, like how did you even approach a game like that versus a Cult of the Lamb? Where I think we're all familiar with like the cutesy and like the, how would you say, bombastic moments, but this game doesn't really is quite the opposite of that, right? So I'm curious how you guys kind of swapped hats between the strategy between both those games.
Yeah, so for Terra Nil, I worked with they have a few people working on social media and community stuff there, Kosi and Hyphen at Free Lives. And I'd say in general, the way that you should look at anything, I think, is looking at like what makes this thing unique or different, or what messages will people potentially latch onto here. And then like social media is trying to get it, like one of the first goals is trying to get people's attention. Like, how do you convince someone to stop scrolling while they're just like scrolling through TikToks, like one, like seeing them, like they only look at it for like 2 seconds or 1 second. Then like you have to convince them to stop and actually look at your thing, or like scrolling down a timeline on Twitter or Instagram. How do you convince them? So that's where you need to have like very snappy messages, and the message then needs to like resonate with what the game represents and what the developers, what the message that they want to portray with their creation, because this is something that they've worked super hard on, like usually for years of their life. So like, how do they want to be represented? And then how does that connect with some sort of message that can then go to the audience? So for Terra Nil, all the things that I talked about, these altruistic angles, like talking about how the game connects to the real world, some of the things like are somewhat educational, and then also how then that has a real world impact through like donations to actual conservation work. And then like in terms of like making content, this wasn't my idea, but one of the things that we posted on the Devolver YouTube is like Terra Nil ASMR, where it's just like an hour long of just like someone playing very like lightly, so you can hear the rain in the game. One of the super cool features is that your cursor, when you put it like wherever you put it, the sounds where your cursor is become like elevated. So if you put it in the forest, then you might hear like the bugs of the forest, and then like the rustling of the pine needles. Or if you put it at the water, you hear like the waves of the water, or like if it's near like a whale, then the sound of the whales breaching the ocean, stuff like that. And you just like the sounds are so good. The sound design is so on point and like so natural. So then make an ASMR video.
No, that's incredible. It's like really leaning into what the game's message is about, what the game's unique selling points are, and then like sort of heightening that so people are aware of what it's about. That's super cool. And then I guess like the other game we wanted to talk about, which is again a very different vibe as well, is Card Shark. Can you tell us a bit about Card Shark?
Yeah, so Card Shark is the first game that I worked on under the Devolver umbrella at Nariel. Card Shark is a historical stealth puzzle game. It's extremely hard to describe what kind of game it is.
I was really excited to see how you describe Card Shark, because it's not one of those things where it's like super easy to disclose,
Yeah. So in the game, it's a game about card cheating, where you play as this historical character who is learning these card cheating tricks so they can go from their status as like a criminal or a peasant, and then eventually they go into these gambling tables where they do card cheating tricks, and then eventually making their way up to play cards against the King of France in the 18th century.
The three games that you have kind of helped with that we've mentioned here, right? Like you said, it almost sounds as if with Terra Nil, you were kind of going into that community, seeing what that community would respond to well, or specifically what that game is trying to offer and highlight those things. What is that? How does that apply to Card Shark? Is it like just making a lot of fun about how to cheat in card games, like how to count cards, or a lot of card puns and whatnot? I'm just curious, like the how that philosophy applies to Card Shark specifically.
For Card Shark, I definitely, like, when I first played the game, I actually had a really bad time because mostly because of bugs, and it was just like super frustrating to get past certain things. Also, the game is very tense because you have to the puzzles or like the gameplay is really unique where the logic of doing these puzzles is literally the logic of what you would do if you're like manipulating a deck. So like the UI shows like all the cards in the deck, most of them face down, but then like if you're trying to save this ace that was like put on top, and then you like shuffle, and then you need to like keep it here by in jogging, and then like so you have to like do that, and you have to like think of the order of operations of like how do you like keeping track of that, and then knowing what inputs to do, while also there's like a timer. Because if you are taking too long, then people will get mad at you because like they realize that you're cheating or they suspect that you're cheating. It's a sus meter, as they say, and then and then the other part of the game is that if the sus meter gets too full and people get too upset, then sometimes they will just kill you. And yeah, like literally kill you. And there's like a permadeath version of the game where you can't.
As what happened in back in France in that day, maybe even now.
That's a good one.
I saw I was watching some of the videos on the Devolver channel about this, and there was some videos about like IRL, like how you can manipulate the decks, and there would be a guy dressed up in like a French medieval cosplay. Is that the developer or is that an actor?
Yeah, so that's Nikolai. He was the like lead artist as well as like
awesome.
the originator of the game. He was the one who came up with the idea of like making a game around card cheating, and it's his art style, which is why the game looks like that. Which is like I think it looks super cool visually. So he once in a while he'll just like start to learn some new hobby, and at some point he was learning card cheating or like card tricks. And then he's like, oh, well, this is a lot of fun to learn. Why don't we make a game of this? So then he contacted the people he knew at Nariel, and then they started working together to make the game. And then for the art style, he has a background in animation. For this, he did a style that was aiming to be kind of like paintings for like historical paintings, but then like actually hand painting things obviously is like way too much work. So he used mono printing, which is a illustration technique where you take paint and then you put it on different objects, and then you stamp those objects, and then you would layer those like stamped shapes on top of each other, and then each different object has like a different texture, and then also since it's from like actual paint, then it looks like it's it has more detail, but then you're not actually like directly painting it because you're stamping them on. And then for this digital version, then he would scan the different layers of these stamped paint images and then like compile them to make the game's art style.
That's crazy. That's so cool. And then he also dresses up in costume to explain the cards for YouTube. That like honestly, commitment to the bit for everyone involved. It's nuts.
Yeah. And then I had a great time. I went to Busan Indie Connect last year to present the game, and like I don't speak Korean. I'm not Korean, so I was like, how do I like talk about this game to people here if they don't know that much English? And I don't know Korean to speak to them. So I just like had a deck of cards, and then I would be like point to the cards and be like the kind of like card trick. And then I would ask them to like pick a card, and then like shuffle it and like do a thing, and then like reveal their card, and try to explain that like this game like teaches you these card tricks. Everything you do in the game is card tricks from real life, like what I'm doing right now. So
wow. So you also had to be become a specialist in card tricks to do
like
your presentation.
Method acting,
yeah.
like to do community, to do social, to like promote video games, you got to go full method on.
Yeah, you got to be a magician and a rapper, and on top of being.
That was like one of the that's kind of why I got into this, right? I like performing, and I like being in front of people and showing stuff that I have learned. So so all of this is fun, and like not everyone has to learn these things to do their job, of course. But yeah, like something with the rap or like other music related things. Like I want to do those because I have fun making music related things. Like going back to from the start of like music is my biggest passion. So getting to do that a little bit is more fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Kinda
I guess
I keep on like looking. I want to get a deck of cards. I know I have one
Oh my
over
God,
there.
Oh my God.
I'm terrified now.
he's gonna tell you what card you're thinking of.
Okay, well, like one of the main things that you get to learn in game is the in jog. Oh man, let's see, can we do this? So, okay, so I'm like doing this, and then if I want to like mark a card or mark a spot, then you can see here like this is an out jog, so it's out. It's like this spot is farther out, and then I keep on shuffling like this. And then now, if I cut from where that spot was, then now I've like saved this one card.
Totally.
And I can like cut it. Now it's on the bottom or on the top or wherever you want to cut it to. So that's like one of the basics of the game. And a basic of Magic, yeah. And that was like a super obvious one where I like left it like way
Absolutely.
out, but obviously if people aren't looking for it, so they wouldn't notice. Yeah.
I love how we've like talked about Terra Nil and its real world implications and how people can take actions into their own hands. And then now with Card Shark, it's like, yeah, try this at a casino. Like next time, I don't know. Just, no, that's awesome. I mean, I'm also just like, again, curious now that we've kind of talked about 3 titles and just the variety of the work that you do, right? We see a lot of like early community managers here. And I think in Southeast Asia, because Reno and I are quite plugged in with the indie ecosystem, we're also starting to see a lot more positions for community managers, social managers, and general PR folks out here that probably haven't existed before, right? I'm curious, like, if there's any, like, what is the usual advice that you typically give to like newer community managers? Are there a lot of people kind of like asking you about your role and how to build the success of these games? Because I feel like, Jared, the personality wise, I feel like, the work that you guys have all done for Cult is kind of like the golden standard for indie games, right? Yeah, I'm just curious, like some of the advice that you typically give or stuff that maybe like advice that you haven't given enough to folks that are interested.
I think it starts from the games, like I was talking about before. And I think like most important, you want to talk like really be as close to the development team as you can. And even if you can't ever meet them in person, like I was doing a lot of these things without having met these people in person, and even like not talking to them that much. But like one thing I did at Nariel for Card Shark was I made this survey to like ask everyone on the dev team or at the studio, like what are your inspirations as a gamer? So like who are you as a gamer, and then who are you as like a developer? Like what is important to you? What are the things that you want to do with the games that you're making, or like what's important to you? And then like what messages resonate, and so that to represent like the people, because like you are representing the people behind the game. And then for the game itself, going into like the creative minds behind it and seeing what their stories are, because like they have a personal reason as to why they've ended up making this game, like with Nikolai and how he was he was like learning card tricks and he's like, oh, this is fun, so now I'm gonna try to make a game about this, and that's interesting. Like that's a story that someone might be able to relate to, because it's like his story, therefore it's like personal to him, therefore it could like connect to people because it's someone's actual story, and I think that's kind of where you can start. And if you have a good grasp of those things, then you can take that to the marketing messaging and like what things can then resonate to the players.
It's quite beautiful. I think it's also quite funny. I mean, when you talk about integrating people's stories and integrating people's personalities, I just like a quick reflection has been like, if you take a look at Toge Productions, right? We know a lot of the folks at Toge Productions super well. It's like the way they market Coffee Talk is obviously quite different than they market games like, Kree's Front Tactics, right? Or A Space for the Unbound is different than some of the other games that they kind of market. But it's quite funny how Lala, who currently does their social on TikTok, it's just so her humor as well. So also bringing like the social media managers kind of like personality and humor to the forefront. The reason why I bring that up is because it's like that authenticity that you bring up, right, Jared? It's like you talk about the people behind the game have stories, have personalities, and have a way they want to be represented. How do you do that authentically on the internet whilst also making fun of stuff and talking about the public zeitgeist or whatever's out there, but doing a service to the people that are behind the games as well, right? It's just a funny reflection, I guess.
Yeah. And I think like a person's personal, like their personality as like the representative, that also comes out. And I think earlier when you were saying like the lamb's voice, I say all that's like I feel like it's more of the brand's voice, but it's also like the social media manager's voice. Yeah, and you can see that it's quite unique. It can be very different depending on the game. Versus sometimes like there are teams that like, oh, we don't want to be in the we don't want to be in the forefront. We don't actually want to have like individuals be like, oh, everyone reveres this dude or like this person as like they associate this game with this person or this brand with this person. Like you don't want that because they feel like they're a team and they want everyone to be represented. So then that's like a different challenge.
Absolutely. Well, I guess we're coming towards the end of the show and we're about to wrap things up. But I did want to quickly get a question in with you, Jared. Like, what are you playing right now, and what are you looking forward to for the rest of 2023?
Okay. This weekend I played Tunic.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Tunic. Like, wow,
I heard a lot of good things.
Yeah, what a well crafted, like, really really special game. I'm very bad at action, like combat in games for the most part. So I started the game on like reduced combat difficulty because I knew that I couldn't. Like maybe I tried it for like 10 minutes of like normal difficulty, and I'm like, I know this is too hard. I'm going to reduce difficulty, and then towards the end, I'd already played like 9 hours that day or something. And towards the end, I'm like, I want to finish this game today. I feel like I'm close to the end. I'm just gonna like turn off like combat difficulty or like turn on like can't die mode. So I'm like, so I was going into boss fights and then they like whacking me and I'm just like not losing any health. I just like, yeah. The least you know about it, the better. But like the combat is difficult and it's like isometric, but it's also a knowledge-based game, and knowledge-based games are like my favorite kind of games. My favorite game of all time is Outer Wilds, but I love other knowledge-based games like Return of the Obra Dinn, blanking the Forgotten City, and Tunic games. If you aren't familiar, those are games where the core gameplay is learning the logic of the world, and like the puzzles are the world itself. And yeah, I don't want to say more if you haven't played some of those games, but like if you know all the things you need to know to complete the game, you could probably complete it like very quickly because you know all these things. But then like discovering those things is the fun of the gameplay, and then figuring out how they work together is the fun of the gameplay. Yeah, so that was like why I wanted to play Tunic, and not so much the combat part because I'm bad at that. So that's why I was like, okay, I'm not going to do combat anymore. I want to do this knowledge part. Yeah.
I'm having the same challenge with Persona 5 because I'm so late to playing it. I just want to get the story. So I think I chose like super ultra easy mode, whatever is like the easiest mode. And then there's like another mode where if I don't want to fight, I just like auto battles as well. And I'm like, this is fine. Because if I don't, and I need to set aside like at least an hour a day to play. And at this rate, I think it'll take me maybe approximately 2 years to finish it. So it's like, all right, well, I'm going to speed this up. I just want to get to I just want this part of the game to experience this part of the game. So I totally get that as well.
Yeah, especially for JRPGs like Persona where the game is just so long.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, and then for later this year, I am excited for Slay the Princess. That's probably my most excited for game. It's a visual novel, like choice-based game by Black Tabby, which are I think they're American, but they're in the Toronto area now. Yeah, really really small team, and it's a visual novel, but instead of like there's a princess and she's chained up, and this voice tells your character to like, oh, you need to slay the princess instead of like save the princess. And then lots of weird stuff happens, and there's like a huge number of possible endings and things that overlay with each other. I've played the earlier demo, but I don't want to play it anymore because I'm just excited for the game to come out. Yeah, so that's what I'm most excited for.
Yeah, I looked that one up, and I was like, "What? This is not what I expected." I think I just thought it was going to be like a knight rescuing kind of game, and then it's like, wow, this escalated super quickly.
I love that we're in an era where we've seen so many of the same type of games and the same type of stories that we're trying to flip a lot of them. Like talking about the Mario movie, it's like, oh, you're not saving Princess Peach, you're saving Luigi, right? But in this kind of game, I mean, to your earlier thing, Jared, it's like Tunic is such a cute, beautiful, wholesome looking kind of game. But then, yeah, it gets like combat, I hear, is extremely challenging, right? So you don't typically associate those two things together. And then now, same with this title, I think Reno showed me as well. I was like, this is wacky as hell, but just such a good flip on this this archetype, if you will, right? Or the type of thing that you would expect.
Yeah,
so I kind of love the direction of games they're going they're going in.
Yeah. I'd say like the things that get me most excited about games in general are, like I said, knowledge-based games, but in general, games that like tell stories through gameplay in really innovative ways. So I don't want to spoil things, but yeah, like Obra did, where you're like really uncovering the story. All these knowledge-based games, you're uncovering the story in a very abstract way, but also things like Slay the Princess, which I assume I'm going to be doing something similar. And yeah, top best kinds of games. Yeah.
Like again, like when I remember when Obra was coming out and a lot of people were starting to play that game, or I think it was like after it was out, it got a lot of traction about people talking about it, especially word of mouth, and it just gets me so excited. But I feel like it's one of those games where I want to reserve a weekend, right? Like get pen and paper in front of me if necessary, and just go through the whole thing and kind of experience it. But I got to carve out time to go through those games, you know. But I'm excited to you're getting me excited to jump in now.
Yeah, I think they just like bring a completely different kind of experience than what you get normally in games, which is often quite linear or very straightforward. Like all these games, like often they like really don't tell you anything, and it's like the closest thing that I think can get to exploration. Oh, another one, Heaven's Vault. Oh man, Heaven's Vault is so cool. Okay. This one I will explain a little bit because the knowledge based part is so interesting. The game has its own language, and then as you go through and you explore the world, it's like point and click kind of style. But as you go through, it's like archaeology. There's some lots of ruins and history, and then as you go through and find these ruins, then you'll see that like, oh, you realize that this thing means like this word in the script means like water, and then you just try to lock that in, or you like maybe try to make assumptions as to like what the language is. It's like built this whole language, and the game is literally like understanding a language that no longer exists. Yeah.
That's
along
incredible.
with being in a story and like having an adventure and all these things. But yeah,
that's like instant wish list for me. You know what I mean? Like instantly putting that on my list. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's really, really, really clever. Yeah,
I think similar. I mean, just to just talk about like games as a whole as we're getting into this kind of conversation, right? Like even when you talked about Card Shark, because I watched a lot of the trailers, a lot of the marketing that came out for the game as it was leading up, and it was so funny because when people were trying to describe that game, it's like, oh yeah, you can describe it the way it looks, but describing the gameplay and the type of game it is can get quite challenging. But again, I love that. This is again why I love the independent experience a lot more than AAA's, and I've said this multiple times on the podcast, where innovation and true steps and leaps forward in terms of how do you marry gameplay with ideas that are so nebulous is such a fascinating relationship to me. So I just love that we're in an era where people can kind of take bets, and I guess like folks like you at Devolver as well are supporting games that are so new and original and wacky, but giving kind of players that it's like I've never kind of, and I didn't think that somebody could articulate this thing in a gameplay loop before, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it just gets me back to this excitement of like, man, indie games are flipping great, and they look beautiful, and they sound beautiful, and there's so much fun that we can, so much fun social stuff that we can talk about it. But at the end of the day, like even just general gameplay or how these games exist is beyond me. So it just gets me really excited about playing more indies throughout the year.
Yeah, yes, do it. All those games, like you can really push boundaries. People should play them. People should buy them and play them, and have their eyes open to like what more games can be than just the experiences that we've been having for like 20, 30 years.
Yeah. No, that's a great message. That's a great message to wrap this interview up as well. Thank you so much for your time, Jared. And thanks everyone for tuning in. If you want to hear more about Jared and his work at Devolver, we'll have links to his Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff in the description box below as well. Yeah, thank you so much again, man. Like really, really appreciate your time. And it's been such an enlightening experience for both myself and Arief.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much for inviting me. I had a good time. Thank you for letting me have my exposés about the game.
And well, that's the episode. Thanks everyone for listening. If you like what you're hearing, check out our previous episode as well, where we cover Final Fantasy 16 and Sora Seasons of Wonderful Life. Take care, everyone.